pedal to the metal, go, go, go!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the PSGL Esports Cup event. We are here for round number 8 of the championship as we take in, of course, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, of course, here in Imola. My name is James. I'm going to be taking to the stream, as always, on a Friday night. And joining me in the comment box, of course, it is Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you very much. Looking forward to hopefully what will be another great race in this championship as we come close to rounding off the season. A lot of things to look out for tonight. It's going to be a busy night for the two of us, isn't it? Keeping an eye on and everything that's going on. And come to a great track. Imola, absolutely love this circuit. I don't think I can say enough about this circuit. I think this could be an amazing race.
It could be an amazing race. Honestly, I've commentated around Imola before on this game, and it's such a good track to commentate on. Of course, the first time since F1 2013 Imola is in the game. And, of course, if you were back then on the PS3 like I was, you'll know how the track felt back then, and you can compare the two together. And, of course, coming from Portimao, brand new track, of course, added to the calendar this year in F1, VSR do lead the way on 316 points, and they can actually wrap up the championship tonight. We'll take you through the championship permutations as we go along, but VSR leading the way on 316 points. Outplayed Racing in second, the Italian outfit in second on 225, FER in third on 204, WR in fourth on 160, Team Mentalism in fifth on 141, IFR in sixth on 138, TTG seventh on 119, Shazoo in eighth on 116, TF10 in ninth on 105, and then ET8 Esports in 10th on 90 points. And Aidan, obviously, VSR can wrap up the championship tonight. I think they've got to outscore Outplayed Racing by 43 points and outscore FER by 22 points, respectively, to win the championship tonight.
Yeah, they can win the championship tonight, like you say. I think it's going to be a long shot. I think it takes a bad race, really, for OP and for FER today for them to win. But I would say it's not out of the question. We've seen it a few times this season where teams can have bad races, so you never know what could happen. I think if we're basing it off of VSR's recent form in this championship, I would say it's possibly unlikely that they will win tonight. But like I said, you never know. Anything can happen. And then beyond that, there's so many great battles further down as well. Of course, that battle at the moment for fourth in this championship is still very, very close. A lot of teams are still within 50 points of one another, I believe, from fourth all the way down to ninth. So that is all to play for as well.
Yeah, we were having a discussion before we came on the stream about Team Mentalism and how they've ended up in 5th position, 141 points. And I think it's just due to the consistency in both drivers finishing every single race, which is why they're in that 5th position. IFR behind them in 6th. Both of them haven't been the quickest teams so far in this championship, but both of them are 5th and 6th, so they're middle of the road in the standings, and it just comes to show what consistent teams can do when you are so high up in terms of the standings. Looking at the driver lineup as well coming in tonight before we get going. A couple of changes from what you see on the graphic, including the Shazoo drivers, of course. But at the top, we have ET now represented by Devakin and Gustav. For VSR, it is Jordan and Casper. Casper in for Duncan. Shazoo are represented by Ogiano and Corne. For FER, it is the traditional pairing of Isma and Modesto. For TTG, it is Fabi and Hadler. For Team Mentalism, Arocco and Johan, same pairing as last week. OP are represented by Nico and Nikita. WR represented by Lars and Gil. TF10 represented by Leo and Ika Baenya. And IFR represented by Tom Robbo, who's a brand new driver for IFR in this championship, and Jensen. And looking at that driver lineup, of course, Aidan, VSR probably the ones to beat, but of course Shazoo coming in with a very late change with Ogiano and Corne taking up the round from Suku and Kazizel.
Yeah, like you say, a little bit of a change around for them. Unfortunately, obviously, because of a late submission, they are going to be having a quali ban here, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for Shazoo around a track, especially like Imola, where it is a little bit more difficult to overtake than tracks we've seen this season. That could be quite a difficult evening for them. I think Casper as well, because he's a late addition for VSR. He'll be starting at the back, so a few drivers going to be at the back of the field having to work their way through, but we've seen it plenty of times this season. A lot of drivers have had to work their way through from the back and have made very good recoveries. I think another team to look out for tonight as well has got to be TF10, hasn't it? They had a really, really strong race in Portimao. Both of their drivers did. EKR, unfortunately, on the strategy, just didn't get the better end of it. He had to stay out in the wet conditions a little bit longer than his teammate, and that affected his overall finish. But I think you've got to say that they're another team to look out for tonight.
Yeah, they are, to be honest, and obviously TF10, ninth in the standings coming into tonight, 105 points, they're 11 points behind Jizu, they're 14 points behind TTG as well, so they are still in with a good championship fight, possibly even for 5th position, of course, if they do pick up some very good points, of course, here tonight in Imola for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, and of course, we are at the Autodromo Enzo E. Dino Ferrari, of course, no track introduction or anything, so I will take you through a track map in question. First Grand Prix held here in 1980. And what a fantastic track it is, of course. Just the one DRS zone running down the start-finish road in towards turns 2 and 3 at Tamburello. And then, of course, you've got corners like the Villeneuve Chicane, Perrotella, Tulsa. All of those corners are going to be featured, of course, within our commentary tonight. And, Aidan, it is an absolute joy to drive.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it at the start of the stream. I cannot say enough about this circuit. I think, for me personally, I think this is probably my favourite track in terms of driving. It is just so rewarding when you get a lap right around here. And as well, there's real punishment at this circuit if you get it wrong. There's no tarmac runoffs here. It's all gravel, it's all grass. The curbs are quite high. It's very easy to get it wrong, and you're punished heavily when you do get it wrong. So it's not one of those tracks maybe like Portimao where you can push really, really hard and get away with it. You've got to be really measured around here, which I think adds a unique challenge to this season.
It does add a unique challenge to this season, of course, and with there being 32 laps as well, so that there's plenty of time, really, to try and get back into this. The safety car advantage around here is quite prevalent as well. We are going to get in towards short qualifying, of course. 18 minutes worth of qualifying, 32 laps, as I say, of course, out on track. And again, we will run you through the championship permutations once we load, of course, into lobby and once we get the drivers out on track. But, Aidan, what a track it is, of course, 4.9 kilometres in length. The lap record held around here, the most recent lap record, 1:15.4, held by Lewis Hamilton. I think we're going to be seeing drivers at quicker times than that. However, I say that, it is wet conditions.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we're going to be seeing anyone getting anywhere near that lap record, unfortunately, here tonight, because it is chucking it down, isn't it? Really, really chucking it down. Very wet conditions. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. Like I mentioned, this track is so difficult. Add a bit of rain, and that makes it even more difficult. So, yeah, going to be great to see these drivers going around in wet conditions. And if it's a dry race on top of that as well, that would just make it a little bit more difficult as well, because this is one of those tracks where you can adjust your setup for wet conditions and not suffer too much in the race. There's not much of a difference between a dry and a wet setup here. So, yeah, be interested to see what drivers do in terms of strategy. And we could see, like we saw in Portimao, we could see a few wet specialists jump to the front. I think one that stands out to mind is Jensen. He had an amazing qualifying for IFR last time out in the wet at Portimao. He could be another one to look out for again here tonight.
Yeah, I was talking to Jensen before we actually got into the party that we're in, and before we came live, of course. And Jensen actually really rates his chances tonight. This is one of his favourite tracks, of course, to drive on the game. But will he be up there, of course, in the top end of the standings? The rain is absolutely falling down on the track. We might have a minute glitch. The cars are beginning to leave the pit lane now, but you can see the rain, the sheets of rain, pretty much coming across the track. It's literally like being in the northeast of England right now, because it is absolutely chucking it down outside. The wind is quite high, so if I lose power at any time during this stream, then obviously you probably know why. We've got a red warning in force up here, of course, in the UK at the minute in the northeast where I live. But Cornet is the first man out on track. Shazoo. Tamburello chicane, of course, coming through turns 2 and 3. And let's have a look then at that championship permutation, of course, coming into tonight. And remember, 43 points is all that's needed for VSR to wrap up the championship, ahead, of course, of the nearest team in second, that's OP. FER, of course, third. They need to outscore them, VSR, by 22 points. So it looks on, but obviously one of their drivers having a qualifying ban, it could mean somebody is going to come towards the front end of the field, and VSR might take it to 2 weeks' time, of course, for round 9.
Yeah, I think, like I said, that qualifying ban could put paid to their chances of winning it tonight, but anything can happen, we don't know. But if it's more of a straightforward race, then yeah, it's going to be difficult for VSR to win it tonight. But I think either way, I don't think VSR as a team should be too worried. I mean, it's going to take an absolute disaster for them, isn't it, to lose this championship? They started off so strong that the second half of the season they've not really had to worry about any of the other teams. So, yeah, I think they're not going to go into tonight thinking about winning the championship. I think they're just going to try and get as solid a result as they can and just keep the momentum up for the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, definitely so, and obviously Casper, brand new driver in there. Look forward to seeing, of course, how he gets on for the VSR team. And right on board there with Cornet, fighting the car on the edge of the curb, and actually, he's coming back into the pit lane. Really? Really? He comes back into the pit and he's on a set of inters, actually. He tried it out on a set of inters. It looks like it is full wet conditions, however. Not sure who the first man out on track is. I think it's Yakita, if I'm not mistaken, on the run down in towards turn 1. So we're right on board with him now through Tamburello. There is a car ahead of him. It might be Jensen, actually, on a lap ahead of him. We're right on board with Yakita, coming through turn 4, and then in toward the Villeneuve chicane, of course, of turns 5 and 6. And normally in the dry, you can take this pretty much flat out into 5th gear, coming through there, but down to 4th, of course, in these wet conditions. And you can see he's on the full wet tyre as well. Coming through Tulsa corner at turn 7, and then, of course, up the hill in towards turn number 8 at Piratella. And this is such a stunning track, of course. 19 corners awaiting the guys out on track. It's a good old-fashioned F1 track, of course, back in the day. And as I said earlier on in the stream, F1 2013 was the last time we actually got to grips with this game. And with this track, indeed, as now we come through Aqua Minerale, up the top of the hill, towards the end of the middle sector, and Nikita looking like he's on a good lap here, the Italian, of course, OP in second, of course, in the championship. Casper has retired from the session as a result of that qualifying ban. Cornet, Ogiano and Cornet, by the way, I've just realised why Cornet came back into the pit, and he had a qualifying ban as well, so I think he'll be trying to get his setup on, and then obviously come down. In towards Ravazza, though, we go with Yakita, as he now comes through turn 17, and then through the left-hander again of turn 18. These two corners are known as Ravazza, and then through turn 19, on the run to the line. Cornet's retired from the session, using up his qualifying ban as well, but to the line goes Yakita. Good lap from him to 1:26.2, and that's the first lap, but Jensen comes in nearly a second quicker.
Yeah, that was a brilliant lap time from Jensen. I was riding on board with the Ferrari man. He actually found half of that in the first sector alone, and that's one thing you'll notice about this track. It's the shortest sector on the circuit, but actually the first sector is where you see a lot of drivers lose time, as Leo's actually gone even faster. He's now gone 4/10 clear at the top of the timesheets. That's a good time from him. But like I was saying, you'll find a lot of time in the first sector here because you need to be committed through Tamburello and the Villeneuve chicane to be able to carry the speed in the first part of the lap. If you're slightly offline, we have a bit of a wobble in either of those chicanes, so you can lose heaps of time, as Isma's now gone a 10 faster. So Isma and Leo at the moment in a class of their own at the front of the field, and Jensen's all on his own in third.
Well, we kind of saw this earlier on. I think, was it in Portimao? I think we had a wet qualifying session as well, and Isma and Leo's were towards the top end of the field. Modesto there third as well, so the wet specialists you mentioned earlier on are beginning to come to the fore. Jordan there in 5th position as well for 125.6, so he's in 5th position at the minute. Drivers are still getting their lap times on board. But one thing to notice is, of course, with Ogiano still in the pit lane there to obviously serve up his qualifying ban, these guys will go on multiple laps out on track, and this is so they can actually get rid of the standing water. There was a lot of it as well out on track, but Isma is the top stander at the minute. Leo in second, Modesto in third, and FEO looking quite strong so far.
Yeah, looking pretty strong at the moment, first and third. As Hadler's been disqualified for driving the wrong way. I was just on board with him. He spun on his second lap coming through Aqua Minerale, and in his attempt to get back on the track was just driving the wrong way at a very slow pace, but was taking too long to turn his car around and has been disqualified. That's unfortunately a little bit of a rookie error there for Hadler. That is a shame to see him out, and I think that he might have his AO car might have just blocked one of the ET8 cars. Yeah, Gustav was a little bit held up by that. But yeah, FER off to a strong start. Leo off to a strong start for TF10 as well. He's just gone another 4. He's just found another 4/10 on his second lap, and he's gone back up into provisional pole while both of the other FER drivers have invalidated their time. So Leo looking very strong once again.
Yeah, definitely. So Davakin is on a lap as well for ET8. He's coming around the final corner. Gustav there in 13th position as well. But he is now running to the line as Davakin coming across the line. Does he improve? No, he doesn't. Typical when I go on board with the driver, then they don't improve. 26.4 for the back in there, down in 12th position. Lars is on the lap as well. Iker, interestingly, is on the lap, and he's running down in towards Ravazza, of course, turn 17 and 18. But Leo out on top is for second, Modesto in third. And as I mentioned literally about 45 seconds ago, the majority of the guys are going for multiple runs on their lap, and that's trying to get rid of the standing water. Of course, these wet compounder tyres can get rid of 75 litres of water a second on the track. Intermediates, on the other hand, can get rid of 25 to 30 litres of water out on track. Iker, I think, actually invalidated on his lap, so he's not going on for a lap. Lars is coming around the final couple of corners down towards Ravazza. Jensen, by the way, has just gone second, and we're still seeing improvements. I think Nikita has just gone up to sixth there as well. But Leo out on top, Jensen in second, Isma in third, nearly 10 minutes gone, 8 minutes gone in qualifying. Lars doesn't come across the line to settle lap either, so he must have been validated, or which is powering up for a simple lap. But Leo out on top, Jensen second. Can anybody stop the TF10 man at this stage?
It's going to be difficult to say. Jordan gone second, like you say, in the Aston Martin. It's going to be difficult. He looks very strong at the moment, does Leo. IFR now third and fourth, with Tom Robbo now up onto the second row of the grid. So good qualifying so far for IFR as well. Gil's just gone sixth fastest. One person I'm on board with at the moment is Johan for Team Mentalism. I think they'll admit that they've not been really very strong qualifying all season long. That's not been their forte. Their forte is more making up places in the race, but Johan's looked strong so far. I think he made a mistake in the final sector on his previous run, so he's just going to come up to the line now. We'll see if he's improved on P8 at the moment. Crosses the line and he goes P6. He does find 0.3 of a second, so it's pretty close now at the top of the timesheets. First down to, well, 8th position at the moment, covered by just over 0.3 of a second, sorry. So not a lot in it as it stands, and yeah, Leo at the front for TF10 looking very strong, and he's going half a second faster in the middle sector. He's absolutely flying, is Leo. Is that him going faster, or is the track getting a bit drier?
Track might be getting a bit drier. I'm not sure if there is a dry line forming down in towards Ravazza, but I'm on board with him now. We'll catch him on board as he now comes through in towards Ravazza at turn 17 and 18. The old Italian house is off to the right-hand side. As he just invalidated, I think, coming around turn 17 and 18. I think he has, and I think he's going to come possibly back into pit unless he was on track limits today. He comes across the line. He does actually improve. So what am I on about? 24 flat from him. Jordan there in second. Fabi has just gone fifth as well, but Jordan now into the pit lane will not improve on his lap. Tom Robbo, the Liverpudlian, as well, he is into the pit lane as well. Jensen is on a lap coming through Tulsa, but Leo out on top. Jordan second, and it is really a track for the wet specialist so far.
Yeah, it really is. As if Imola wasn't a specialist track enough coming into this race, the wet's made it even more of a specialist circuit. It's such a difficult circuit to get a grasp on. So Leo looks like he's miles above the rest of the field at the moment. That's a stunning lap, and when he did go wide at the first Ravazza, he lost at least a tenth and a half there. He was nearly 6 tenths up by the end of the second sector, so there's still more time in it for that McLaren. To be, well, over half a second clear at the top of the sheets is usually what we see Jordan doing for VSR at the end of a session, but it's Leo this time around. So yeah, brilliant stuff for Leo at the top is all a big mistake, I think, for one of the Red Bulls.
Yeah, Nikita spun, exited exited Variante Alta at the top of the hill through turn 15 and 16, and Nikita spins the car around. There was a little bit of a 180 moment nearly from Nikita, but a half spin kept it out the wall very nicely indeed. Jensen, by the way, goes second on his 5th lap on that sort of wet compound tyres as well. Nikita, though, not getting on the lap. And OP at the minute, 11th and 12th. Obviously, with Casper down in 17th, taking that qualifying ban, it really gets, it's really a bit of an advantage now compared to actually starting from the back of the field. Because Hadler, of course, got disqualified. So the guys who've got qualifying bans, Ogiano's still in the pit lane, of course, Cornet and Casper the other two, they're not going to be starting at the back of the field because Hadler obviously got disqualified and he's going to be starting in 20th.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit easier for some of them, doesn't it? And especially with Casper being in 17th, he's got a qualifying ban, but he's still got 3 cars behind him at the moment. So, yeah, Casper lucking out a little bit with how it's playing out in this session so far. And I think they'll be happy that Hadler's one of the ones that's been disqualified, because Hadler's had good speed when he's raced. He would have been a difficult person to overtake for their speed level. So, yeah, I think they'll be lucky that that is that case, and they've been able to benefit from that. I was running on board with Nico for OP as well. He was on another run. He was nearly 0.4 of a second up, and he ran wide at the first Ravazza as well. So another driver really struggling to get the car stopped for the Ravazza corner. So I think it's deceivingly difficult, that corner, isn't it? Because it's downhill. We're in the wet conditions. It's an easy 90 left, but the downhill braking zone seems to be really catching a lot of the drivers out.
Yeah, especially with the drainage around this track as well. Of course, water falls downhill and it collects at the bottom of Ravazza, and that's why the guys begin to lock up into the corner and they run wide and test the invalidation and the track limit. Coming through there, normally in the dry, you can take a lot of track limits and get away with it, but in the wet, it might just be a different kettle of fish. Isma, by the way, went second, at 24.3. He's within 2.5 tenths of Leo, but Leo currently out on top. Isma there in second, Jensen in third. Tom Robbo is about to start up on a lap, and he's in 5th position at the minute. Luke Etheridge, by the way, in the comment section saying, Tom Robbo has said, what has Leo been smoking? And Luke replies, he's been drinking goat milk.
Good one, yeah. A good one. He's coming back out onto the track now on another set of wets. So, yeah, no one seems to be going to the intermediates at the moment. So it just seemed like it's staying like that. Isma was on a good run, but he's invalidated, so he's going to have to come back into it. I think he was running out of fuel anyway, so he's coming back in as Modesto now goes to the top of the time sheet on his 6th lap on those wet tyres. Wow. He's still not low on fuel at the moment, according to his MFD, so he's still got a lot more time in that. If that's on his 6th lap on those wet tyres with still more fuel in the car, I can't imagine what he's going to be like at the end of the session on a fresh set of tyres.
Yeah, high fuel load from Modesto, which is good, and he's on top now. Leo there in second. It's 500ths of a second, the gap between them both. Jordan, by the way, I'm going to ride on board with up in towards Piratella. This is one of my favourite corners to take out on the track. Through Piratella, down the left-hander, and now in towards Aqua Minerale. And the change actually is not really mirrored as compared to the ACC game. I know, Aiden, you're a specialist on ACC. You'll probably know better than me. But it is a little bit different in terms of the track limits. Jordan has now backed off a lap, so obviously wasn't happy with the lap he was on at the minute. But in terms of Aqua Minerale, it looks like if it's profiled differently on this game compared to ACC.
Yeah, just a little bit. I will say it's far better than most of the tracks that are on this game compared to ACC. It's probably the one that has the most similarities in that sense. But yeah, it is a little bit difficult. Track limits at Aqua Minerale on this game do seem to be very, very lenient. I can say on Assetto Corsa it's the complete opposite. It's very strict at Aqua Minerale. You can't run off track, or otherwise you will get invalidated or a penalty in the race. So yeah, difficult to say. And yeah, it's a well-modelled track, I've got to say, for Codemasters side of the things. It's not as good as ACC, of course, because they are laser scan, but either way, it doesn't take away from the challenge of this circuit and how good this circuit is to drive.
And doesn't take away from how talented the Codemasters developers are either, even though they can make a little bit of a poor game. Modesto the lad on top, Leo in second, Isma in third. I'll try and get away with that slight comment, hopefully. But Modesto lad on top, Leo in second, Isma in third. Gustav, by the way, improved up to 12, 25.2, and he's chosen this fresh set of wet compound tyre. And the fresh set of wets are not really working at this stage, not coming online until you go multiple laps, as we've seen from the likes of Jordan, the likes of Tom Robbo. Rocker is another one that has came on a lap as well, 24.7. He just improved on that lap, so I'm not sure if he's actually improving on this one. Leo, I think, has just started up on a lap as well, but Modesto leading the way, Leo in second, Isma in third. 3.5 minutes to go in the session. Rocker now around the final corner. The Frenchman now runs the line, and he doesn't improve on that second set, or the second lap on that set of wet compound tyres. He stays seventh for now. Leo is up in towards Variante Alta. Is he improving?
I don't think he is. Leo had a poor first sector. He had a bit of a wobble. No, he's backed off this lap, so he's not improving. The only person I can see at the moment is Fabi. He's coming round the last corner, and he's coming up to the line now. Currently 8th position, crosses the line, goes 5th, so he finds a 10th and a half and goes up onto the 3rd row of the grid as we've got E. Careoff at the Tamburello chicane. So I think we've seen at least 3 drivers spin there. Ike's the next one to fall foul of it. He's having a bit of a tough qualifying session compared to his teammate, unfortunately. And Leo's going again on another lap, as I think we've just got Modesto coming out of the pit lane. I don't know if he quite got in the way of one of the Red Bulls there. I think he just got out of the way of Nico just in time. Yeah,
I think Nico was just coming on to a lap, if I'm not mistaken, so I think Modesto got out of the way. He's still on his, he still classes on his out lap, obviously, he's out of the pit lane. Jordan, by the way, in 7th. I'm not sure if these camera angles are actually totally deceiving me, or if it's just very, very now. The rain is basically falling down the camera lens, and it's very off-putting from my perspective to try and commentate on the action, because I can't see, really, what the cars are doing. But Jordan is on the lap coming through the Villeneuve chicane. He's coming through the end of the first sector. So 27th lap through the first sector. As you said, it's the shortest sector on the lap. But Jordan now on the run up in towards Piratella, through Tulsa, up in towards Piratella. Modesto out on top, Leo in second, Isma in third. I'm sure we'll get improvements up and down the field as we go along. The rain is beginning to ease slightly as well, so maybe a chance of inters towards the end. I think with enough standing water, though, it is still going to be a full wet session. But Jordan now coming through Aqua Minerale, and he's just invalidating, and he's just nearly spun the car.
Yeah, just proving my point that it's easy to get away with it, but yeah, he's invalidated, unfortunately. Isma's on a good lap so far. He had a very strong first sector and a strong middle sector, so he's looking to take provisional pole away from his teammate at this point in the session. Leo's coming to the end of his lap. I don't know if he's been improving or not. He has. He's found 3.5 tenths. He's gone back onto provisional pole now by nearly 3.5 tenths of a second, but Isma is going to try and do something about it. He's got to have a mega final sector to try and close in. He could be onto the front row and displace his teammate here as he crosses the line. He does cross the line, not quite able to get up to pole position, but he does go into the 23s, and only 2 drivers at the moment in the 23s. And yeah, the top 3 at the moment are country miles ahead of the rest of the field. Half a second between the top 3 and Jensen in 4th.
Yeah, definitely so. Leo out on top, and look at the gap, I should say, 8 tenths per second between Leo and Jensen. As you've quite finely mentioned, Modesto there's in third, and he's in a bit of no man's land, to be honest. Jensen is not improving on a lap. Giel, however, I'm on board with. On the run up the hill, in towards Piratella, coming through now, turn 8, I think it is, out on track. We're right on board with them now as we go along, and down in towards Aqua Minerale, of course, we now go. The double right-hander. As I think he's just invalidated coming through there. Why is it I go on board with the driver and they invalidate their laps? It's serious, honestly, this Imola track, honestly. I think we saw a little bit of a left side Ferrari having a lost front wing. If I can get my words out, it'll be great. Ferrari lost his front wing, I think. There was a one on the left-hand side. Not sure who it might have been, but it was certainly one of the IFR drivers. Wet races are definitely interesting, say Shazoo, Chile, and Luke Etheridge coming in with a very sly comment, I've got to say. You're from the northeast. This is summer weather, James. It is. It's like what it is now.
Yeah, beautiful summer weather for the north, isn't it? Zeke has retired from the session. He's spun for the second time, coming out of Tamburello. Jordan's coming up to the line, by the way, currently 9th on the grid. He goes up to 4th. That's more like it, but I mean, he took pole position in stunning style Portimao last time out. To only be 4th on the grid at the moment is a little bit of a shock, you've got to say. Still quite a ways off the top of the timesheets. Modesto having a massive wobble for the Villeneuve chicane. He's not finding any time on his first set of wet compound tyres. So I think that might be it for Modesto sessions. Fabi's session is definitely over. Jensen's finding a bit more time, and that Ferrari that was off the track was Tom Robbo. He was the one that spun. He set that great first run and hasn't been able to improve since then, whereas his teammate is finding just that little bit more time and is looking to try and get it back up into 4th place.
Yeah, he's coming through Ravata now, coming through turn 18, on the run through turn 19. Leo out on top. Where is Jensen going to go with this lap? He goes 5th. He does improve by 2 tenths of a second, but still, he just only goes ahead of Fabi by 400ths of a second. It's quite spaced out, I've got to be honest. I saw a qualifying session around here in the dry, and normally it's about 8 tenths separating the whole field, but at this moment in time, it's a more than 1.2, 1.3 seconds separating the whole field with these wet conditions. Giel is not on a lap. I think Fabi might be. He's on the run down towards Ravata. We'll see what the TTG man is doing. He's got Leo just in front of him as track as well. Modesto doesn't improve either. Jordan is not improving, I don't think. Fabi is back into the pit lane. Jordan, I think, is not on the lap as Leo just goes even quicker with 23.5. Wow. The TF10 man out on top from Isma in second. Modesto in third. Is Jordan improving? I don't think he is. Coming around the final corner. We'll see if he's going to come into the pit lane. And he does, and that is the end of qualifying. There's Leo out on top, Isma second, Modesto in third. Leo, an absolute class above the rest, and I think it's his third qualifying, and if I'm not mistaken, it's his third pole position.
That's another pole, yeah. I think he's been on the front row every time in qualifying. I think that might be his second pole position, if I'm not mistaken. I think he may have got pole back in Spa as well. But yeah, he's been a real star here today, hasn't he? Exactly 3 tenths his gap back to FVR Isma in second position. But yeah, Leo dominated that qualifying session from start to finish. He looked like he had pole wrapped up in the first runs, and then the FVR drivers tackled him down and tried to get the pole off of him. And then he just comes back and blows him out the park again. That is a brilliant drive in qualifying. More what we're used to seeing from the VSR drivers. So, yeah, great start to the session for him. And, yeah, like you said, big gaps throughout the field. You've got to say, well, first down to 7th, being nearly a second is pretty big for this division.
It really is. Leo out on top, though. Isma in second, Modesto in third, and FVR have out-qualified both VSR drivers. Of course, Casper with that qualifying ban, but Jordan is 4th. Jordan is 4th, and FVR are looking good to try and retake 2nd in the championship. Jensen in 5th, with Fabi in 6th, Giel in 7th, Johan in 8th. The 2 OP drivers are 9th and 10th, Ikita and Nico. Lars Lev in 11th, Tom Robbo in 12th, Aroka 13th, Gustav in 14th, Iker 15th, Devakin in 16th, Casper, Ogiano, and Cornet, both, all 3 of them picked up qualifying bans and had, of course, down there right at the back of the field, of course, from that disqualification. And, of course, we have got no track map or track introduction, of course, coming into tonight, so I'll run you through once again the specifications of the Imola circuit. 4.9 kilometres in length, of course, 32 laps awaiting our guys out on track. It is dry, looking at the conditions, which is very good indeed. 32 laps, as I say, the lap record around here, 1:15.4 by Lewis Hamilton. The first Grand Prix ever held around here in 1980, and the last time it appeared on the F1 game, 2013, when they added it as part of the Classics track with Estoril and Brands Hatch, I think.
Yeah, Brands Hatch was the other one, wasn't it? Yeah, they were great. I wish they would bring more classic tracks back. Hopefully that's something they can do in the future. They were great fun, weren't they?
I think petition for Turkey to come into the game. I love Turkey, and honestly, I want Turkey to be in the game. So, if anybody in the higher upper echelons of Codemasters are listening, Turkey, please. Qatar, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Turkey, please. Qatar, please. Malaysia, love to see that back. That would be amazing for league racing. There's so many tracks, isn't there, that we could have back as classic ones. I mean, we could go on all day about classic tracks we'd want to see in this game. Yeah, there's plenty ones that we would want to see, and it's just great to see Imola back on the calendar in real life F1, isn't it? It's great to see a staple of the sport and such an iconic name being back in Formula One.
Yeah, of course, the Tifosi will be very happy. It is the other Italian team, of course, FVR, in the Alfa Romeos, I should say, who were second and third. The Ferraris, the Tifosis are fifth and 12th. So, who are you going to be supporting, of course, in the comment section? Let us know as we go along. As I've just chipped my tooth, I think, as we come onto the Formation app. That's terrible. Anyways, Leo out on top, Isma second, Modesto in third. And a reminder, of course, of the standings coming into tonight. Of course, it is VSR who do lead the way, FVR in second, and OP in second, I should say, and FVR in third. But FVR, after that strong qualifying session, Aiden, looking like they're going to retake second off OP, despite that pretty poor qualifying session by the Italian standards.
Yeah, it's good for FAR, isn't it, being right at the front of the field at a track that's difficult to overtake. It's a good qualifying session for them, and like you say, they're not far behind, obviously, the OP right in front of them. So, yeah, good opportunity for FAR tonight to try and take it off them. It's been coming for a while. They've been slowly creeping up to the back of OP, who had a great start to the season and have kind of fallen away a little bit in recent rounds. And FAR have had the complete opposite. They started off poorly and have just been building momentum ever since, to the point now where you've got to say they're one of the strongest teams in terms of getting both drivers to the finish in a good result. VSR, of course, had that at the start of the season, but in the last couple of rounds or so, they've had one driver at the front and one driver right at the back. So, yeah, FAR, one of the strongest teams in the field right now.
Yeah, predicted pit stop strategy just coming up on my screen. Lap 11 to lap 13 on a set of hards, and then from a set of medium to a set of hards, it's lap 14 to 18. I did a commentary in TTML around here last night, and honestly, it was a fantastic race, don't get me wrong, and our graphics man will be not remembered for that performance in this race, I've got to be honest. I'm not going to disappoint Tom whatsoever, but it was still a very interesting race, especially in terms of the strategy. Medium compound tyres were better than a set of softs around here, and it's interesting to see only 4 drivers, Leo, Isma, Ika and Casper, they're all on a set of softs as opposed to the set of medium runners, which are pretty much 16 of the 20 drivers.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the front two have gone for soft compound tyres. I think they'll want track position in the early phases of the race. They won't want to get held up. So I think that's a smart choice. But it's also smart as well for FVR to split their strategy. So they're covering both bases, and they're not under really any threat tyre-wise from drivers behind. So they may as well split the strategy and try and at least win on one of those.
Yeah, definitely. So we are now getting the final cars to join on the grid. Are we missing somebody? I think we're missing somebody at the back of the grid, unless I'm wrong. No, I'm wrong. I thought there was 19 cars on the grid. There's 20, but the 5 red lights are about to go out here in Imola for round number 8 of the championship here in PSGL, the Esports Cup event, and it's lights out and away we go, and Leo gets a very good start. There's a very good start as well from Isma, and they absolutely split up the part of field, and Jordan and Modesto are side by side running down into the Tamburello chicane at 2 and 3, and now Jordan goes all the way around the outside. He's forced onto the gravel. Luckily, this gravel is very soft, and he can run through the car nicely for the top 2. Only a second clear, Modesto in third, Jordan in fourth, and that's caused a massive Constantino effect in behind. Giel trying to go on the inside line, coming through the field chicane, and it's left a tap, and it's absolutely all sorts of carnage coming through here, and Jensen has been caught up in it certainly, and he's right down the back of the field. How on earth there is not a safety car or a VSC to clear this up, I do not know, but Leo leads the way. Isbran second, Modesto, and then there's more collision further down the field. Casper is off, Iker is off, Lars is off, and now we get a VSC.
VSC just for debris on the track. That was a disaster, wasn't it? I mean, we mentioned it's difficult to overtake at this track. Villeneuve chicane in no way is an overtaking opportunity. That was ambitious to say the least from Giel to go for that overtake on the first lap of the race as well. That really wasn't worth it, and it's just caused utter carnage for everybody else behind. I don't know if anybody got through that cleanly. I can see Tom Robbo's got front wing damage. I think one of the Red Bulls has definitely got front wing damage. Johan, I think, has just made it through without anything on his front wing. And then the top 5 have disappeared from the rest of the field because they were the ones ahead of the incident. That was an absolute disaster. It's been such a shake-up that Cornet, for the very back of the field, is now 10th. That is how disastrous those first 2 corners were. Make that 9th as he passes Tom Robbo, who's going to come into the pits. So, yeah, Johan's into the pits. Actually, he does have damage. So, we're going to see at least 6 or 7 drivers into the pit lane here. Yeah, that is... Yeah, Dovikin is coming into the pit lane. Jensen's coming in. Casper's staying out. Gil's staying out. The person that ended up causing that whole drama is one of the only ones that got away with it.
which is unbelievable. Gil down in 15th position. He was fighting, obviously, down into the Villeneuve chicane, and all of that spawned from really him trying to do a wishful thinking move on, I think it was Fabi, if I'm not mistaken, down the inside into the Villeneuve chicane, and that's why he's down in 15th position. And that, unfortunately, I think just ruins the race for our viewers and, of course, for everyone out on track, because we can't get, really, unless there's a safety car, of course, we can't get really a clean race to start us off. But Leo out on top, Isra in second, Modesto in third, Jordan there in fourth, and Fabi in fifth. And as you mentioned, Aiden, 3.2 seconds, quite handsomely, from Fabi to Nico. Nico, of course, and Nikita actually kept out of that very, very nicely indeed. They were in the middle of that carnage, and they're 6th and 7th for the OP team. So OP currently are outscoring in terms of VSR, and at this moment in time, I believe, certainly from my calculations in my head, VSR won't do enough to wrap up the championship, because FER obviously outscoring them, and OP are only 6th and 7th.
Yeah, at the moment it's not enough for VSR championship-wise. They are comfortably being outscored by the FER and just a little bit by OP, like you say. So at the moment it's not enough, and I am amazed that Casper's got through that first lap carnage without any damage. He was one of the drivers that was facing the wrong way coming out of the Tosa hairpin, but I don't think he got any damage from it, which is amazing, unless he's got some sort of... Yeah, Hadler going for the move on a rocker. By the way, just another one to mention, Hadler started this race last, having been disqualified in qualifying, and he's already inside the top 10. That is played beautifully into TTG's hands for Hadler, that he's now back up into the 9th position. So, yeah, crazy stuff. Back at the front of the field, by the way, Leo and Isma driving away. Modesto completely on his own in third. Jordan, interestingly, is really struggling on his medium compound tyres. He can't keep up with Modesto, and Fabi's starting to close in on the back of him. So, for some reason, Jordan's just not comfortable at the moment on those medium tyres.
Yeah, the run through Aquaminerale, Fabi loses a bit of time, not as committed as Jordan coming through there, but the Aston Martin in fourth, and the Mercedes, of course, in fifth. And I'm actually banking on Fabi to try and get this move done down in towards Tamburello at turns 2 and 3. Of course, it is a very long straight, of course, formerly with the chicane, of course, that used to be run around here. I think the MotoGP like still includes some parts of the chicane, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, they came here, I think, in real life. But Leo on top, Isma actually goes 3/10 quicker than Leo on this lap around, and that's, I think, because of the DRS now running down the straight in towards Tamburello. I don't think he's going to get the move done. And do you know what I said about Fabi trying to get the move done on Jordan? Yeah, totally ignore that. He's about 6/10 away as he comes down in towards Tamburello. Closes nicely on the brakes, but doesn't go for the move, and Nikita and Nico obviously got to keep it there in 6th and 7th. I think Fabi, or Jordan, certainly got a little bit Larry, and Fabi's now right on the back of him.
Yeah, Jordan had a big snap of oversteer coming out the second part of Tamburello, and then he's understeering at Villeneuve. This is a little bit bizarre. I don't know if there's something wrong on the setup of that VSR car, but he is not stuck to the road in the first part of the lap. He doesn't have any confidence in the first part of the lap. Like I mentioned in qualifying, it's actually the first sector where you lose a lot of time, because if you're not committed through the chicanes, you end up losing so much momentum, and you can be half a second down just through one minute error in the first sector. That seems to be Jordan's problem at the moment, is that he's fast everywhere else, he's comfortable in the middle and the final part of the lap, but he just doesn't have the commitment through the first part. And the worry for Jordan now is that he is holding Fabi up, and they're actually now being closed in on quite quickly by the two OP cars and the Red Bulls. They've taken a second out of Fabi in the last lap and a half, so Red Bull drivers are absolutely flying at this point in the race.
Yeah, and Isma looks a little bit shade of quick. Right, let's start that again. Isma's on the back of Leo, 6/10 away in behind, and he looks quicker than him. That's what I was trying to say. Isma down towards Tamburello. On lap 5 we are, and Leo leads the way. Isma in second, but I've got to be honest, Isma, as long as he's within 7/10 of a second, he can try and get that move done. In terms of his ERS usage, he's only got 18% in terms of that ERS usage. Leo there in front of him is on, 40% nearly. So Leo is actually doing a fantastic job out on track in terms of trying to harvest his ERS as much as possible to try and get that run, of course, down towards Tamburello. But Isma has to use it up to try and catch on to the back of him. So I think that's why Isma is so quick at this stage. He's using more ERS than him. But Leo is not hardly breaking sweat up, if we've got to be honest, out in front.
No, you've got to say he's looking very comfortable, isn't he? He's not wasting his ERS trying to defend, fresh air at this point in the race. He knows that he's comfortable in the lead. It's a big moment a bit further down the field, yeah. That'd be a big wobble coming through Aquaminerale, and he's lost DRS range now to Jordan. That's going to take the pressure off the Aston just a little bit. But, yeah, a lot of these drivers, the top 3 at the moment, are, as they were in qualifying, in a complete class of their own. Modesto obviously can't keep up with the top 2 because he is on the harder of the 2 compounds of tyres. He's on the mediums, but compared to the other medium runners, Modesto's in a complete league of his own. So the top 3, just like they were in qualifying, driving away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's we're getting close down in towards turn 2 and 3 at Tamburello. Again, not close enough to the back of Leo. There are the position gains, by the way, from absolute carnage on that one. Cornet and Hadlov getting the most positions. They have 11 positions, respectively. Nikita's up 2. He's trying to get Nico down in towards turn 1. I don't think he'll try and pass his teammate. Ogiano, in the meantime, on the back of a rocker, has gained 7 positions, so he's the third most gained driver out on track. Giel, I think, has spun coming through the middle sector. I think he's got the car going again, if I'm not mistaken. I think Jensen is going to get through on Giel, and that's why there are yellow flags in sector 2 and 3. But Leo well on top, Isma in second, and to be honest, Isma now, down and towards Aqua Minerale, he looks on this now, and he looks like he's harvested a bit more ERS to save up to try and get Leo, and this is looking a lot closer this time around, possibly until lap 7, we could see the move change for the lead.
Yeah, it does look like it's a bit closer this time around, doesn't it? One thing they've got to note, these drivers, that is the soft tyres do, once they hit their temperature window, once the tyre temps start to go up, the softs do tend to lose a lot of pace very quickly. So these drivers will be in a little bit of tyre management mode at this point of the race. They won't want to burn up the softs too early and then worry about having to manage the mediums later on in the race. I think Isma is still just a little bit too far back. He's not using his DRS, although the DRS around this track is very powerful. It's a long straight heading up towards the Tamburello chicane, but he's not changing into 8th gear, interestingly. Yeah, staying in 7th, not going up into 8th. I think that's, I guess, an easier way than lifting off at the end of the straight and maybe ruining your braking zone. He's just lagging back at this point of the race, not wanting to make the overtake, but it's starting to shift, isn't it? It does now start to look a little bit more like Isma is maybe the faster of the two at this point in the race.
Yeah, I definitely think so, and they're pulling away from Modesto and all of this as well. About 5 tenths a lap, they're actually pulling out on the fellow FEO man, who's obviously in 3rd position. Jordan there in 4th is 3.5 seconds behind. He must have some sort of floor damage or something for him to be that far behind. He's normally right on this, and he's normally so quick, and he should be catching these guys, you would think, ahead of him as well. So, he's there in 4th position. I have a feeling he's got some sort of floor damage, side pod damage, something like that. And hopefully it will fix itself as the race goes on. But of course, on this game, no damage ever fixes itself.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't. As Gustav is our first driver to get a time penalty. Surprised, actually, we haven't had more penalties yet. That is one thing about this track. Penalties can quickly amass here. It's very easy to run off the circuit and pick up a warning. But yeah, I've got to agree with you. There must be some sort of floor or side pod damage on that Aston Martin, because we're so used to seeing Jordan just walk away at the front of the field and dominate races, aren't we? We're so used to seeing that from him, and it's just not happening at the moment for him. So maybe he does have some damage. I think it was him and Giel that actually came together at the Villeneuve chicane, I believe. So maybe Giel gave some damage to that Aston Martin on the right-hand side. If it is floor and side pod damage, that can't be fixed. That can't be fixed in the pit stop. So he's just going to have to manage that for the rest of the race, if that is what he's got. But yeah, I think at this point in the race, it's hard to believe that he's struggling this much compared to the Modesto, you could say.
Yeah, Fabi there in 5th position is also just staying that gap quite stagnant, and Nico and Nikita are actually catching both of them. And Jordan's there in 4th position, 4.1 seconds is the gap, and he lost another 6 tenths of a second on Modesto that lap around. As I say, there's got to be some sort of underlying problem with the car, or it's just a general setup pace. I think Isma has just made a mistake, if I'm not mistaken, coming out of Aqua Minerale. Is that more than a second the gap? So he might have had a twitch coming out of Aqua Minerale and has lost the DRS zone down in towards Ravazza. I was commentating around here last night, and we saw drivers actually using up the ERS to try and latch back into that DRS range, coming down in towards Ravazza, because the detection point is just on the other side of the track, coming through, and the detection point, of course, is the DRS point coming down the straight, and he hasn't got any DRS to use up. So Isma's now in a bit of no man's land, 1.2 seconds in behind, and that can only mean one thing: Leo's going to pull away.
Yeah, you've got to say now it's Leo's chance to really pull away at the front. We'll see now who the two is faster now that Isma doesn't have the benefit of ERS. Can he close back up, or is he just going to drive the way as the OP drivers swap places in towards Tamburello? I think that's a smart move, because Nikita has a lot more ERS than Nico at this point in the race. If they're going to attack Fabi, they need Nikita to do it. He's going to have a better chance here, and OP starting to march their way forwards just a little bit in the race, as we've seen them do many times this season. Qualifying doesn't necessarily go their way, but they're very strong races, as Iker now has gone off the road coming out of Oriente Alto, I believe. He's had a spin as Modesto now, one of the leaders up to get a penalty, but as it stands, it wouldn't affect his race at all. That's how much of a gap he's got over Jordan. So, yeah, penalties starting to come in now, but at least for Modesto, he's safe for the time being, and Isma has used up all of his ERS. Leo, likewise, has also used up all of his ERS here on this lap, and Isma's not been able to get back within DRS range, which suggests to me that Leo is looking like the faster of the two drivers here.
He is, and he's channeling his inner Belgium form, I think. Obviously, I think he raced with Use, if I'm not mistaken, in VSR back then, and they were on the front row of the grid, and Leo outperformed Use in terms of that race, and he's showing exactly why he means business on track tonight. Yukita, by the way, is on the back of Fabi. We saw him move from Lars further down the field, up into 15th position, but now Yukita absolutely sailed on by Fabi down in towards Tamburello at turns 2 and 3, and Yukita now, the Italian, at his home track is through, and he's into 5th position. Fabi there in 6th, Nico there in 7th. Arocca is catching Hadler down in towards turn 2 and 3, of course, through the Tamburello chicane, and then, of course, on the run through the Villeneuve chicane. But Arocca there in 10th. He's beginning to get into this now, the Team Mentalism car. Johan, of course, pitted in after that damage earlier on in the race, and he is actually leading that train pretty much in behind. Like, can you call it a train? They're all spaced out like a Nan's washing line, to be honest, if I've got to put it lightly. But Arocca in 10th position. He's under pressure from Oggiano, and Oggiano just trying to force a Team Mentalism driver into a bit of a mistake, but they're still on the back of Hadler, so this is going to create a DRS train, and as a result, they're probably going to catch the cars ahead.
Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? I think Arocca, obviously, he had his first race last time out of Portimao, and he had a solid showing, but this is definitely a lot stronger for Arocca in his second outing, so going well so far. But yeah, I've got to say at this point in the race, Oggiano, if Arocca did lose DRS range to Hadler, I think Oggiano would be straight past. You've got a yellow flag. That's Casper that's crashed out of the race at the very back of the field. I wonder if that's going to bring out any sort of safety car. By the looks of things, I don't think it is. I think we've gotten away without getting a safety car from that. But yeah, but I think that pretty much solidifies that VSR aren't going to win tonight, aren't they? I mean, they can't now outscore. They can't outscore FDR by 44 points because you can only get 35 points for winning a race. So officially now, I would say championship moves on to the next round.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Jordan's in 4th, and we've just had a report actually in the comment section from VSR Brett, who's part of the VSR team. Jordan is having a lot of OSD issues. So OSD issues there for Jordan, and that's why I think he is underneath the pace that he normally is at. And Jordan there in 4th, Yukita is in 5th. Yukita, to be fair, is not really catching Jordan, and he's keeping that gap consistent, but with those underlying issues, it means that the driver's got to work pretty much twice as hard to try and overcome them.
Yeah, and I think the problem with that as well is it's more of a distraction than anything else. So if he gets into a battle, or if he loses concentration for even a slight second, he could just have a mistake and it could cost him loads of time. So he's got to, he's kind of on a knife edge. Yeah, they're both in. Isma's into the pit lane as well. This will be for a set of medium compound tyres to take them to the end of the race. The important point now for their race is where do they come out in the traffic? They're going to be behind a whole queue of cars. It's a very long pit lane here. It's about 26, 27 seconds you lose in the pit lane here because of how long it actually is. So they're going to be behind quite a few cars here. There goes that whole train of cars battling at the moment for, I believe, 6th on the track at the moment behind Cornet. So they're behind that whole queue. They're not too far behind it. They're going to get out just ahead of Dovahkian, I believe. Yeah, just about is TF10. TF10 Leo. Isma's not. So Isma is behind Dovahkian. That could be crucial for his race. He's got to get past this AlphaTauri as quickly as he can. I think he might do it down into the Villeneuve chicane. He's going to have a look, but sensibly backs out of it. I think recognising it's not an overtaking spot, and he's just going to have to wait for a little bit longer.
I think it'll be either here, Tulsa, which I think he's going to go down the inside line, or I was going to say up in towards Piratella, but Dovahkian, to be fair, is actually giving him more, and they actually rub on each other slightly, coming out of Tulsa, and now Isma on the inside line. He's got right away the corner, but Dovahkian's not going to give up without a fight, and up in towards Piratella, which I think where the move was actually going to be going for. Isma is doing, he's into 12th position, and he's still in that next second position, which is absolutely crucial. And of course, they've got a big gap over Modesto and Jordan. I think we saw a 3-second penalty there from Fabi, if I'm not mistaken. He's there in 5th position now with that 3-second penalty. Hadler in behind on Cornet. These guys, of course, running towards that set of soft compound tyres, and the set of softs around here. What lap are these guys perceivably going to be pitting in for? I think the tyre graphic said it was lap 14 to 18 from a set of mediums to set of hard. I don't imagine that whatsoever. These drivers, I think, could get beyond lap 20 to go onto a set of softs.
Yeah, I think the earliest you can probably come in is lap 20 for a set of soft compound tyres. They'll take you to the end of the race, but they might not be all that fast by the end. It depends really on what you want to do. I think if you're someone like Nico or Fabi, you may want to come in a little bit earlier, maybe lap 19 or 20, try and use the soft tyres to undercut some of the drivers in front, and then just hold on to track position towards the end. I think if there's ever a track where you you can hold on to track position. It's here, isn't it? It's difficult to overtake anywhere but the pit straight. So if you get a good run out of Rabatza every lap, you should be safe. So that's going to be interesting to see Jordan now with the time penalty, and that's going to cost him big time because Yukita and Nico are both in range, and Fabi's not far off of Jordan either. So if Fabi can get ahead of Jordan in this race, that could be another position loss for him. And at the moment, it's looking brilliant for us. Gilles retired in the pits, unfortunately. It's looking great for FVR at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Isma running in a comfortable net second position, and Modesto by far the fastest person on the medium tyres at the moment.
Yeah, he's 2.6 seconds behind Leo, of course, got held up by Davakin, and that little bit of contact just set him back slightly. But can he now catch the back of the McLaren in front? That fire-coloured car. I'm above with Ogiano, by the way, running down the straight. The pit window was now open for one-top strategy and just set a hard compound tyre. The AWS graphics really do like to throw a curveball, I'm going to say, in these sorts of races, but they're still leading the way. Jordan in second, Nikita in third. Ogiano, though, 3/10 behind a rocker. I've got to be honest, he's quicker than these guys ahead of him in this train. He's got Gustav behind him. Iker is behind this as well. He's already been lapped by the guys. And then Leo's only 3.6 seconds off, so if he can catch in the corners, Leo, he's going to be on the back of this train, I would imagine, in 3 or 4 laps' time, and Leo will be hopping onto the back of a massive, massive queue of cars. And if he doesn't recognise that Iker, of course, is a ghost car, that can be so off-putting as well, because there is a ghost car involved in this as well.
Yeah, that could be really distracting, like you say, for Leo, that he could catch a whole bunch of cars before they pit. It's not long until they pit, but if he does catch them and start getting held up, that's invitation for Isma to close back in again. So Isma's really got to push at this point in the race to try and benefit. I fully agree with you as well. Ogiano looks much faster than the people he's racing at this point. This track, he's got a lot more ERS than the drivers around him. He's able to stick within 4/10 of the car in front around a track where dirt to air should heavily affect you. So yeah, I think if there's ever a driver in this field that's going to pit early and try that undercut, it's got to be Ogiano, because if he pits early, a lap earlier, he could gain, well, at least 3 places and then try and get within penalty range of Fabi.
Yeah, and we saw him try and have a cheeky look around the outside of Variante Alta, which I do not recommend to anyone, because I saw an incident last night in TTML, and that's exactly what happened. Somebody tried to go around the outside of the outside of Variante Alta, didn't work, and they end up spinning and end up retiring out of the race. I think that might have been our graphics man, if I'm not mistaken. But still, Modesto out on top, Jordan in second, Yukita in third, Nico there in fourth position. In terms of the championship, by the way, I'm going to try and bring you, of course, live updates as we go along. But at this stage in this race, definitely so, the fact that FVR are going to be outscoring VSR. It's as simple as that. Modesto is 6.7 seconds clear of Jordan, and Jordan is overheating those tyres, I think. Yukita is now within 8/10 of him, but the gap is still being quite stagnant between them both. Yukita doesn't look like he's got the pace to try and latch onto the back of the VSR man ahead, but Nico there in fourth position as well, and Fabi's not entirely out of this either. It's a 4-car train basically for second, but are we going to see any of these guys pit in very soon indeed? I'm looking to one of the OP drivers. I think it's going to be Nico that pits in first. He could come in a couple of laps earlier than Nikita and then try and get an overcut on this whole pack.
I would personally look to Yukita to be the one to come in, I would say. I think the only reason I would bet against Nico coming in is because at the moment, pace-wise, Nico's really struggling to keep up with Jordan and Nikita. He's got absolutely no ERS at all, and when I say none, he was running at 0 down the pit straight. He's used all of his ERS and still can't get within DRS range of his teammates. So I think if they want to solidify a top 4 result here, I think Yukita's their best bet. They've got to let Yukita come in and undercut Jordan, and if Yukita does get a penalty later on, he can still have the track position over the Aston Martin. So, yeah, I think that's their best bet at the moment, is bringing Nikita in a little bit earlier. I think they're a few laps away still from the pit stops for the soft compound tyres.
I think we had a desync there, if I'm not mistaken. There was position changes, and I'm not sure what happened there. Somebody has just desynced, I think. And it's in this pack that I'm on board with. I think it might have been Isma. Possibly. Oh, it's Gustav runs wide and Leo was through, and he gets P10 off Gustav. So Leo soon he's into P10. Gustav there in P11. Not really sure what happened there, to be honest, on my end. Certainly the graphics just looked like they flickered, and then it got back to normal. So not sure if there was a little bit of a desync moment in there from the cars. But Leo has now joined this pack, and this is crucial for Leo's chances in the race. Isma's got clear air. He's going to latch onto the back of Gustav. Gustav, I would imagine, is either going to let him through or he is just going to try and back off and let Isma try and get this run. And of course, TF10 have got another car involved in this. Ike is involved in this. I think Leo is ahead of him in terms of the track position, which is good for him, but he can't rely on his teammate, of course, with that ghosting to give him a free DRS toll because he's already in a big DRS train.
Yeah, he's in a big DRS train, like you say, at the moment, and struggling a little bit. I think that D6, by the way, might have been Dovahkiin. I think Dovahkiin was struggling a little bit, and we've got a yellow flag somewhere. One of the Ferraris that is just moving out of the way. I think that's Jensen moving out of the way. Is Leo going for the move? Yeah, got the move on Noggiano. Lovely move, like you say. He's got a couple of cars now between himself and Isma. He's caught this queue of cars, and actually, I thought he would just sit behind them, if I'm completely honest, but he's done anything of the sort. And Gustav's gone round. Gustav has gone round through Aqua Minerale. I think Gustav's tyres are just about ready to give up at this point. He already made one mistake. That's the second one, and unfortunately for ET8, it's not been the best of races so far.
Yeah, it hasn't. Leo's on the back of a rocket running down into a Roberta as well. Modesto still leading the way. Jordan in second, Nikita in third. And yes, you are not adjusting your screens whatsoever. Modesto is 7.8 seconds clear of Jordan. There is a pit stop just ahead. Cornet is into the pit lane. And now look at Leo. I think he's going to get the run on both of them here because Hadler looks a sitting duck running down the straight. But Leo is barely getting past the rocker with that lack of ERS that he's got. He's got actually 0 ERS coming down in towards Tamburello. And he just about got the right back of the ERS usage, but he's using up too much, and this is giving Isma possibly a little bit of a look in. He's 2.3 seconds in behind this pack. He's more than 3.5 seconds in behind Leo. Leo is absolutely flying away from this field. Hadler there in 5th position, Leo in 6th, and Leo, every single race he seems to race in here in the PSGL Esports Cup, he seems to turn it into gold and hopefully into 1st position.
He does, yeah. He seems to be upping his game every time, doesn't he? He's had a stunning race so far, and despite being in the midst of a massive DRS train, he's passed almost going to go for it at outer. That is a bold move down the inside. But,
lovely.
Wow. Brilliant move, and smart from Hadler there to back out of it. I think, yeah, he recognised that was never going to work. Hadler backing out of it, so good move from Leo, smart from Hadler to back out of it and not risk his own race. So, I mean, I expected Leo to catch the back of that DRS train and struggle to get past them. Well, he's done the exact opposite. In 2 laps, he's got through the entire train, and Isma's still not caught it yet. So, despite it being held up by 4 cars, Leo's extended his lead, which I think is going to be, I think, soul-crushing for Isma at this point in the race, because at the moment, he's got no answer at all. And in fact, he's ended up losing over a second to Leo in that whole saga, whilst he's been battling other cars, which is just baffling and goes against any rule of this game, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Isma, he's 3.5 seconds, as I say, behind. Well, he's 2.6 seconds behind Rocco. He's 3.5 seconds behind Leo, but Leo is pulling away very impressively indeed. If I've got to be honest, he's in 3rd position. He looks like he's just joined the race. Quite simply, there was a yellow flag in sector 2. Not sure who that might be. I think it was Lars down in 16th position, now spinning obviously down in 17th. Fabi, by the way, is on the back of Jordan. Jordan came into the pit lane as a result. And what did I say about the OP drivers? Nico came in that lap, and he's on a set of soft compounded tyres, and is now well and truly within this train. And Nikita, I think, is going to fall behind this. So I think they're prioritising Nico, because I think they think he's faster later on in the race, and he is keeping tabs with Fabi and Jordan just ahead.
Yeah, and the good thing as well for both of the OP drivers is at this point of the race, they can just sit behind Jordan and Fabi and then pick up the places on penalties later on because of how easy they're able to stick with them. Nikita's into the pit lane, which I'm not surprised by. The one thing I am surprised by is Modesto not coming in yet. Modesto, I think because he has such a gap over Jordan that he doesn't really have to worry. He can go a little bit longer and have fresher softs at the end. I would have expected to hit him in by now, but yeah, he's had a brilliant race as well, so he'll be comfortably in the net 3rd position when he comes out of the pit lane. Oroka into the pits as well for Team Mentalism, so we'll see where they come out relative to other people, but Nikita is, well, quite a ways behind. There goes Jordan, there goes Fabi, and there goes Nico, and yeah, Nikita's been jumped by the lot of them in just a lap.
And Cornet is not entirely out of this either. He's only 3 seconds behind Cornet, and he was in a different pack altogether. The back end, by the way, is going to be overtaken by Jordan. Is he down into the Villeneuve chicane? No, not quite. He is still there in 4th position, the back end, but now Jordan going to go all the way around the outside of Toza. He's got fresh grip on the outside. Can he get the move done? No. Really good stoic defense by the ET8 man, but he can't find a way through Jordan. He's now getting very frustrated, I've got to be honest, by the back end, who's still yet to come into the pit. He runs wide now, coming through Peratella, and Fabi could get involved in this. Nico and Nikita are on the back of this, and now Modesto is in the pit lane, and he's going to be comfortably, I think, not 15 seconds ahead. I think he's going to be comfortably 10 seconds ahead of this pack, as Lars, I think, has retired either in the pit lane or through Sector 3, and I think that was in the pit lane.
Yeah, in the pit lane, unfortunately, so both WR drivers out, and that's not good for their championship fourth at the moment. In the standings, they could be under pressure for Mentalist and MIFR. What this is doing, Jordan's inability to overtake Dovahkiin on that lap has meant that Cornet has caught them. In a lap, he's taken 2 seconds out of them because they've been stuck behind Dovahkiin, who is still going. Dovahkiin's still going. I think at this point in the race, I think Dovahkiin's just staying out and hoping for a safety car, but there goes Jordan, there goes Fabi. They're already past. Nico will go past as well.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, 3 passed in 1 corner. Fabi thought about a move on Jordan as well, but couldn't get it done. Nikita now has got to get past Dovahkiin as quickly as he can so he doesn't lose touch.
Yeah, he's on the back of him getting into the Villeneuve chicane. We saw earlier on between Lars and Fabi, but Fabi there in 5th position. Lars now out the race, of course, retiring out the race. WR not picking up any points at all, which is definitely disappointing in terms of their championship fight. Nikita tries to go all the way around the outside through Tulsa, now up the hill and towards Piratella. Probably one of the easiest moves you will see all night. I said that in every commentary. Nikita now through, and he's into 7th position. The back in there, and Nathan, look at corner in behind as well. The Shazoo man is on absolute fire, and he's been given a second hope with this pack. Obviously being held up by the AlphaTauri. He in turn though is going to be held up, or is he, by the AlphaTauri? What a run out of Aqua Minerale to the inside through Varianta Alta. Just about got the car alongside, but the back end still hangs it in there. Picks up a 3-second penalty and spins the car around, but corner head right away to the corner. Corner is through and he's into 8th position. There was no contact there at all between them both. The back end just got caught on the curb, and corner is through and he's into P8 out on track.
Yeah, doing exactly what you said earlier on, you can't really do that corner, which is run side by side. Hadler earlier on backed out of the move when it was coming, and that time around Dovahkiin didn't decide to back out of it, and yeah, there was just no room for the two of them. Not a surprise that he spun and he's into the pit lane, so I think he's just given up now on hoping for a safety car at this point in the race. And now we've got a massive queue of cars running for 4th. Cornet has lost touch now because of that battle, which is a shame to see, and Hadler and Oggiano are starting to close back in. They've dropped to Rocco big time in the pit stop, so Hadler and Oggiano comfortably clear. Yeah, it's kind of the battle for 4th now, isn't it? Because the top 3 are just in a world of their own at the moment. Leo leads by nearly 4 seconds over Isma, and he's 5.5 seconds clear of Modesto. I think the only thing we're going to see in this top 3 is Modesto probably catching his teammate.
Probably so, 5.6 seconds, but the softs only come online 2 or 3 laps into the stint, and then they begin to go back off. So Modesto, I think, has got that problem. He's on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. I think he's on his 2nd lap on a set of soft compound tyres. Jordan now, by the way, picks up another 3-second penalty for him. So Jordan there in 4th position, Fabi there in 5th, Nico in 6th, but Jordan there in 4th at this moment in time. I feel like this race has gone very quickly, by the way. We've got 11 laps to go. Leo leading the way, Isma in 2nd, Modesto in 3rd, and Modesto there in 3rd position. I think I've miscounted, by the way, in terms of laps. I've just realised. Modesto in 3rd, 4.8 seconds, fastest lap of the race. Is it too perceivable to think that he could actually win this race still?
I think it's out of the question, unfortunately. I think Leo's had such a good run in this race that I think he's just too far ahead. I think Modesto couldn't keep up in the early phase, and then Leo's speed on these medium tyres has just been in another league. I think Modesto, that'll be too much of a mountain to climb to pass him and get 3 seconds ahead of him. I think even if Leo did get a penalty, I don't think Modesto has enough time in this race to close back in. I think he will try and close in on his teammate at least, and maybe get 2nd on the road, but for the team that won't make any difference. And I think for another week we're going to see a double podium for FVR, but neither of them picking up a win.
Yeah, we are, to be honest. Fabi on the back of Jordan. Jordan is struggling. Isma, however, picks up a 3-second penalty, and that was crucial. Modesto's 4.2 seconds off. Still catching 5-6 tenths of a second this lap around. Leo, Isma, Modesto still your top 3. There are the penalties, by the way. Jordan has got 6 seconds worth of time penalties, and Luke has actually mentioned it quite finely, I think, in the comment section. Jordan could drop down to 10th as a result of this, because everyone in behind are within 6 seconds of him.
Yeah, the problems that Jordan's having at the moment is he's got those 6 seconds of penalties, and unlike anything we've seen this season, he's starting to hold this pack up. I mean, Cornet dropped about nearly 2 seconds back after that battle, when he's nearly back within DRS range of this queue of cars. And obviously, the way this game works, if you're in a DRS train, you're likely to just drive away from anyone that's not in DRS range. Cornet has no ERS and is still able to close in the middle part of the lap. So, yeah, he's struggling. It's Oggiano now, the other Shazoo driver, breezes past Hadler and up into 9th position. He's continuing his march forward from the back of the field. We'll see what he can do. He's got a lot more ERS than his teammates, so maybe Oggiano's the one to try and close back into DRS range. And yeah, could be down to 10th place for Jordan. You've got to say so far, without the race even being done, this is by far VSR's worst race of the season.
It is their worst race of the season, but if any team can bounce back, we know who it is, and it is, of course, VSR. Casper, of course, out of the race earlier on in the race, and that's why no championship permutations are going to be had, because, simply, Jordan cannot pick up 43 points by himself. It is going to go, of course, to 2 weeks' time for round 9 of the championship. Gustav picks up another 3-second penalty as well, but Fabi on the back of Jordan. He looks a little bit slower now, if I've got to be honest, Fabi. Nico is there, 6 tenths in behind him, but they've all stuck in that big DRS train. Fabi doesn't look like he's got the pace. It looks like Jordan's beginning to find something back, to be honest. And now he's 9 tenths ahead of Fabi, well outside of the slipstream range as well. And then Nico was going to catch Fabi down towards turn 1. So actually, this move possibly could look for more Nico's favour than Fabi. In behind as well, Hadler catching Oggiano quite quickly down and towards Tamburello at turns 2 and 3. But Hadler not going to get the move done from that far back. Oggiano stays in 9th, and he's not really dragging Hadler along in all of this. Cornet's got a lap fresher tyres, but he is staying 2 seconds consistently ahead of him. So, Shazoo looking quite good, OP looking quite good, FVR looking quite good, and Leo just in a world of his own.
Yeah, it's literally on a race of his own at the moment. Is a yellow flag. That's one of the Alpha Tauris. That's Gustav that's gone off for the 3rd time tonight at Tamburello. Twice in qualifying, now once in the race. I think that's probably one of his least favourite corners on the game at this point. He's really struggled with that chicane all the way through tonight, unfortunately. It's not been the greatest of races for ET8, sadly. But yeah, Leo, like you said, in a complete world of his own in this race. I mean, we mentioned it, that Jordan is usually the one we see dominating the front of the field, but this is very much a Jordan performance from Leo, isn't it? Leo's got a very smart head on his shoulders. He's a very, very smart driver. He knows when to pick his battles. And even today, like that battle through the DRS queue, I would have thought in any other world that would have been, well, not very smart to battle those drivers, but he managed to get through an entire pack of cars all within the DRS train and not lose any time, in fact gain time. So yeah, very, very smart and very fast. He's a deadly combination for the last 2 races, isn't he?
He is a deadly combination indeed. And speaking of deadly combinations, Modesto and Iker working together. I never thought I'd be saying that. Modesto's now 1.6 seconds off the back of his teammate, and that's because he got DRS down the start-finish straight off that ghost car of Iker. He is still running on his own accord, is Iker there down in 17th position, and he's doing a phenomenal job, I've got to say, in TF10. They're filling out, of course, first and last position at the minute, and Iker has literally helped FVR try and claim a bit more of an advantage, and it's 10 seconds now the gap as a result. Jordan really struggling. Iker picks up another 3-second penalty. That's probably his work done in terms of the Modesto train, as I'm calling it. Leo in the lead. 3.8 seconds gap has stayed consistent, absolute consistent throughout this race. But Modesto is catching Isma. I wonder if there's going to be a swap around before the end of the race between the 2 FER drivers, because it seems to me Modesto, on that sort of soft compound tyres, is quicker than Isma, still catching him 5 or 6 tenths a lap. Next time around, he's within DRS range.
Yeah, I think it would be smart for FVR to swap the positions at this point in the race. They both got penalties. There's no point in fighting one another. Modesto does still have an outside shot of possibly catching Leo, and if Leo does pick up a penalty, then Modesto can go for this race victory. So they may as well swap positions to see what happens. Fabi's left the session. That is such a shame for Fabi, who was having one of TTG's best races of the season. He's lagged out from 5th position, and there goes Nico. Nico's going to get past his car, and so is Yukita. Hopefully Fabi can get back in before the likes of the Shazoo drivers catch up to him. That is a real shame for Fabi, sadly. I think it's just not gone well for TTG this season, has it? They're always in good positions and something goes wrong, and this time it's sadly completely out of their control.
Yeah, hopefully Fabi is able to rejoin before the end of the race. Otherwise, he might not be picking up any points at all, of course. With him being a goals car, he's going to drop down so further down the field. That goals car, by the way, actually caught time on Yukita coming through Aqua Minervale, which I thought was quite funny. But Desta, by the way, is only 6 tenths behind on Isma. And this, I think, is going to be the swap around between 2 FER drivers. We said it last lap around, and I think it's going to happen. On to lap 28 we go. Leo leading the way 3.7 seconds. The gap is beginning to come down slightly. But now Modesto is let loose by his teammate Isma, and now Modesto 3.7 seconds to gain, or 3.5 seconds to gain, in fact, down in towards Tamburello. He's got a 3-second penalty to his name, so he really needs to overcome Leo by 6 seconds. But I think with the imperious form that Leo is in at the minute, Leo is going to take some stopping.
Yeah, he really is. And I mean, just to make Fabi's race even worse, his AI car's come into the pits for no reason and put on his old set of mediums. That is a real shocker, isn't it? That is such.
It's a worn set as well.
Yeah, that's his set that he was running at the start of the race. I've never seen anything like that. That is such a shame for Fabi. That is his race completely ruined. What an absolute disaster. What that is a free place for both of the Shazoo cars, and that helps them a little bit in their battle with TTG in the championship. Of course, Shazoo 8th at the moment, TTG 7th, and that gives them an extra point and drops Fabi down. So that's played into Shazoo's advantage at this point in the championship. So they'll be somewhat relieved that that's happened for them. Morocco picking up a penalty now. One thing to note as well, that whole situation for Fabi has meant that Nico's on the back of Jordan, but they've dropped Yakita now. So Yakita now is struggling to keep up with the two in front. Of course, Jordan's got 6 seconds of penalty, so he's still within range, but he's got to make sure that he doesn't lose any more time, because it could end up dropping out of range to Jordan and losing a place.
Yeah, Nico has looked quicker than Yakita on this stint, but I've got to say Jordan has outpaced Nico on occasions on this stint as well. It's almost as if his underlying issues that he had are either fixed themselves by themselves and Jordan is just coping with it, or Jordan is just coping with it and getting on with the job, and he's driving quicker than Isma, and he's catching Isma now. It's only 0.2 of a second, but he is beginning to catch Isma ahead of him. I mean, it's 9.6 seconds. I'm a bit wishful thinking, and I don't think he's going to get the move done. But this is the closest battle out on track between the guys, Jordan and Nico for 4th and 5th position. Luke, by the way, saying in the comment section, AI putting on a set of old mediums, don't think we need to worry about Skynet anytime soon. And a free place for Jordan as well, and he would have dropped down underneath 10 possession. So actually that helps him out. So he's going to be possibly still 10th. But obviously with Gustav 21.8 seconds behind, Jordan, I think, is going to filter into that gap, maybe even ahead of Hadler, possibly.
I think he will be at the moment ahead of Hadler as it stands. I think actually he could be ahead of Orgiano. I'm just going to double check what the gap is down to them. I mean, he's, 13.5 seconds off the lead at the moment. So as it stands right now, Orgiano is outside the penalty range of Jordan by just 0.3 of a second. So Orgiano needs to find just a little bit more time in these next 2 laps to try and get back within penalty range. But as it stands, 8th place for Jordan, obviously not what he wanted, but damage limitation at the best he probably could have hoped for at this point in the race. So, yeah, not too bad, we've got to say, for VSR. And I mean, the first half of their season has been so dominant that they can get away with a round like this. They've got such a lead in the championship that they don't have to worry about a poor round like this. One thing to note, though, Jordan and Nico have completely dropped Yakita. Yakita, now that he's lost DRS, is just floundering at this point. He's nearly a second a lap slower. So, even on fresher tyres, which obviously suggests to me that Jordan and Nico on the softs are far stronger than Yakita. Yakita looks a little bit stronger on the mediums, but on the softs, Yakita's having a horrid time with it at the moment.
And who said Nico would be quicker than Yakita before they came into the pit stops? Thank you very much. Nico is on the back of Jordan still, 4th and 5th position. I'll take that one as a bit of a prediction from my end. There is a battle further down the field. It's Fabi's AI car going side by side with Tom Robbo, and he's now 30, he's into 12th. The sun is beginning to try and break through the clouds as we approach the final 2 laps of the race. It's always been a dry race. No VSC or safety car as well due for the final 2 laps. There is a Sector 2 and Sector 3 flag, and I'm not sure if that was one of our leaders. I think that might have been Jensen into the pit lane. So it was Jensen into the pit lane, who I think had spun. And Jordan is under pressure from Nico. When is the time, though, for Nico to attack? 6 tenths away. He's close enough this time around. This is going to be the time to attack. Look at the DRS usage now as he comes on the outside line in towards Tamburello, and he sails past him. Nico was through and he's into 4th with penalties, possibly. He could be up into 3rd position. If Isma picks up another penalty, it could be up into 3rd, but looking at the gap, I don't think it's going to be enough. But Nico's through and he's into 4th position, crucially, and that is the job done for Nico. And now we can focus on trying to drag Jordan along with him to try and get something possibly out of this race. But Jordan looks all of the back of Nico still.
Yeah, it does look like that. I think that the better option now for Nico is to maybe hold Jordan up a little bit, as Isma does get that second penalty now. But, I mean, Nico's going to have to find 2.5 seconds in a lap and a half. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the better bet here for Nico is to back Jordan up into Yakita, which it looks like he's doing, because Jordan's all over the back of him. Nico's not going particularly fast. I think he's just going to back Jordan up so that Yakita can secure another place in this race. So that's smart thinking from Nico to back him up here. What it is going to do, though, is give Jordan DRS back down the straight. So I think Jordan's just going to breeze back past him. He's got more ERS. So he probably should have done it on the last lap rather than the lap previous, because Jordan's just going to breeze back past and gain all that time again. We're on to the last lap. Modesto's tried his absolute hardest in this race to close back in. He's nearly within DRS range of Leo. If there were 3 more laps in this race, he could have got past him on track, but Leo being penaltyless as well would saved him in this race. Modesto's done a brilliant job to get back to Leo, but Leo's pace in the early phases of this race was just too much for the FER drivers.
Yeah, too short of laps as well for Modesto to try and catch. I think Leo, maybe, like he did in Belgium, backs out on the final lap of the race and lets Modesto try and catch him toward the line. I think that's what Leo does, but the TF10 man has been simply awesome out on track. He has dominated this race. No driver, let alone no team, could get close to him tonight. FBR have tried their hardest. Modesto and Isma have drove an absolute fantastic race themselves. Second and third position is going to be their finishing positions. But Leo, with no penalties, is going to come down in towards Ravata for the final time with the weight on his shoulders, and it's about to be relieved as we come now through Ravata. Modesto within DRS range, it's not enough to try and catch. Leo around the final corner. TF10 take another win this season, and they bounce back to their form. Leo wins in Imola from Modesto in second. Isma is going to come across the line to finish in third. FVR second and third, and I think they retake second off OP as well. We'll get that confirmed in due course. Jordan will come across the line to finish in fourth, but where's he going to drop down to? I think he could drop down behind Ogiano possibly. Yukita across the line to finish in sixth. Jordan there in sixth, and Cornet actually, he's ahead of Cornet. So only sixth position in the end from Jordan. Did a phenomenal job those final couple of laps. Jensen, by the way, steals the fastest lap of the race as well, 1:14.9 for the IFR man. Hadler there in ninth, the Rocket in 10th, Gustav in 11th. Tom Robbo is having a fight with Davakin coming down in towards Bravata. We're right above this now. Johan has got through on Fabi's AI car, but Davakin on the back of Tom Robbo down in towards Ravata. Can he get the job done? Not quite. Can he get the run towards the line? Tom Robbo's a little bit shaky, and Davakin could have him on the run to the line. In terms of the penalties, it is Davakin. It's actually Tom Robbo who gets ahead of Gustav in the end. So Tom Robbo, 30 laps he's made on that to the hard compenetized, and I think he's finished in the top 10, which is a very respectful drive at all from the IFR man. But what a fantastic race that was, of course. In Imola, driver of the day is awarded by the in-game fans. Cornet, one of the men, of course, who had a qualifying ban.
Yeah, it started at the very back of the field, gained pretty much all of those positions in the opening lap with all of that carnage that feels like a light year ago now, doesn't it? It feels like quite a while ago that all that carnage happened. But yeah, Cornet made his way through and then drove a solid race from there and on. I'm surprised Jordan had great pace on that last lap to be able to secure sixth position. I was expecting him to drop behind the two Williams drivers, but the two Williams drivers just weren't fast enough in the latter stages of that race to be able to get the positions. So yeah, Cornet up to 7th. I think well deserved for a driver of the day. I think it's a good one as well. But yeah, I mean, what a performance from Leo. That's got to be one of the drives of the season.
The drive of the season, I think. And yeah, I totally agree. Leo certainly gets drive of the day here. Probably driver of the season so far in terms of his performances, but it is him out on top. He doesn't complete the Grand Slam. He was slower, in fact, in terms of his lap times than Modesto by about a second. Modesto on that sort of soft compenetized really eating into his advantage late on, but the TF10 man is out on top, and it's an Italian winner in Italy as well. Leo wins for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Modesto in second, Isma in third. Great drive by both FVR guys. OP 4th and 5th in the end. They might have kept their second position. Nico there in 4th, Nikita in 5th, Jordan in 6th. They both teams eat into their advantage, of course, of VSR. Cornet in 7th, Ogiano 8th, Hadler in 9th. All three of them either got disqualified or had qualifying bans. Great job from them. Arocca in 10th, ever consistent for mentalism. Tom Robbo, Gustav, Johan, Davakin, Fabi, and Jensen all finishing along with Iker, Lars, and the rest of the field, of course. Fantastic. And Luke, by the way, has just put in the comment section, unconfirmed at this stage, for VSR, 334 points, OP, 267 points, FVR, 257 points. So, a 10-point gap for the battle for second. VSR, of course, haven't wrapped it up just yet, and of course, we go to 2 weeks' time. And if I find the calendar, I will tell you, of course, what track is next coming up, and that is, of course, it's the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. So, we're going stateside in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, stateside 2 weeks' time. Circuit of the Americas, usually a great track on the game for racing. It's got a bit of everything, hasn't it? It's got that crazy first sector with all of those corners, and then the slow speed stuff in the middle part of the lap, a really long back straight. Difficult strategy there as well. Track limits, again, another thing that could be difficult. So, yeah, could be a very interesting race in that battle for second now. Really, really heating up between OP and FVR. I think OP will be happy that after their qualifying performance that they've actually managed to keep second in the championship. I think after qualifying, you could have assumed that FDR would have taken that second position, but no, OP a solid drive from the OP team, 4th and 5th. Obviously not the pace of FDR and Leo today, but solid enough drive to get them 4th and 5th, and they maintain second for the time being, and they keep a very slim shot at the title open.
They do. I think all three of them are within mathematical chance still of wrapping up the championship. There is enough points up for grabs for them to try and get VSR, but it still looks like VSR could take the win stateside, of course, in 2 weeks' time. On December the 9th, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. No, December the 10th, because the 3rd is a Christmas marker that I'm going to. So December 10th in America, and then, of course, round 10 on the championship, the final round, before we all go and stuff ourselves, of course, with turkey at Christmas. It is, of course, Jeddah. We go to Jeddah, and I've got to say, I've never seen a track look like a fish before, but it does.
It's, I think, to say the least, it's probably the weirdest track layout we've ever seen in Formula One, isn't it? I mean, to be fair to them, to drive on the game on your own with no other cars around you, it's not a bad track to drive. It's just, yeah, I don't really want to know what the race is going to be like around there. It's going to be very interesting. That'll be quite an interesting end to the season. But yeah, like I mentioned, Circuit of the Americas is another great track for racing. So yeah, that could be a great race to maybe for VSR to pick up the title, but who knows? OP and FVR, they've been on good form recently. They could still keep it alive for Jeddah. Who knows? Yeah,
I think with OP and FVR, they've got to select their best drivers now for the final 2 rounds of the championship if they stand any sort of chance to get them for VSR. Because VSR can just field their best drivers and probably run away with things like we've seen so far, but they need to field their best teams now. 2 rounds to go in the championship, still a mathematical chance of the title. Why wouldn't you try and bring down that advantage as much as possible before the end of the season comes? But that is the end of the live stream tonight, I will have you know. But of course, you can catch more action on the PSGL. I think it's break week this week, if I'm not mistaken, in PSGL. So all of the guys, of course, in all divisions will be enjoying their break week. And, of course, they will be back, of course, next week to take you through all the action. Jess, Luke, the likes will take you through next week, of course, as we go for more racing on PSGL. But for myself and from Aiden, thank you so much for tuning in to the PSGL Esports Cup event tonight. For myself and Aiden, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.